They did go 4-0 during the group stages, whereas Southeast Asia went 3-1. They got choice of sides, and they've actually elected to go for the red side for some reason.
Interesting.
Yeah, and to me, I guess the last pick seems to be more important for them, giving Seros something like a counter pick to Optimus, who has looked fantastic in that middle lane.
I wonder whether or not it is for Seros or whether or not it's going to be for Dara, because talking to Mithy a lot, he has said the importance of getting that counter pick support and making sure that you have that powerful bottom lane.
Yeah, and even one step further, they've been highlighted as perhaps the weakest lane out of all of the LJL sides, so getting a strong 2v2 could be quite important.
Well, Lee Sin going to be the final ban there by Southeast Asia. Interestingly, because I could imagine that Levy probably would like to play the champion. Quite good on that one.
Now, Japan have left Kha'Zix open. Obviously, that was an Assassin's mode, but the possibility of it coming out onto Summoner's Rift isn't completely impossible.
Not when there's a Rek'Sai, Olaf, and Lee Sin already off the board, so there's definitely a higher probability.
We'll be diving into the secondary jungle options as Syndra is going to hit the bench once again. We'll get into first picks here for QTV. Poppy going to be locked away, but Trundle is still up here for Japan to grab if they'd like to.
I feel like that we may very well see a resurgence of the Maokai later on in the draft. We did see it coming out earlier on in the tournament with, honestly, some very powerful success. But you could also go for a similar approach to which we saw earlier on in the day from Turkey, which is go for that Kennen. You can be very aggressive up against the Poppy if you want. But
I
in
think
terms
the
of
Tahm Kench needs to happen.
Of course, the Tahm Kench. Evi's one of his well-known champions. He has an insane Tahm Kench, as his fans like to call it.
And we saw it in their first game on Summoner's Rift as well. He just went completely to town on the Oceanic squad. I was definitely crying a little bit backstage. However, he looked brilliant. Ashe is going to be locked in alongside him here as well. Yeah,
and again, the beauty of that Kench is the flexibility of it, potentially going towards that support role. So whilst it's a strong top laner for Evi, it can be flexed to get a favorable matchup. However, he knows it's into the Poppy, and so they may switch to something like the Tahm Kench if there's an engage tool where he has to be a supportive character. And so by taking the Ashe for themselves, they alleviate one of those pain points they could experience.
I like it. Flex picks across the board. But Jhin is going to be locked away. It's exactly what Southeast Asia want to lock in next. Looks like Elise could be the opportunity here for Levy, which would be disappointing.
It certainly would be, but however, it does fit into the style of early aggressive, high ganking pressure jungler. And when you think about all of the junglers that have been taken off the board, it does make sense that Levy would want to go towards that. Then we need to start thinking about what other junglers are actually left available that you can go towards, because there are so many top-tier junglers gone that you do have to wonder what's really left. I mean, thinking about it, you could maybe go for...
Ivern is still available.
That's very true.
That's a good point.
Italy has someone that's fallen off in favor, but she could maybe come back here. Skarner is another one I've heard talks about. Maybe it's largely dependent on what Tussle still has left in the bag.
Zac is available as well.
Yeah, actually, Zac's a big one.
With the Courage of the Colossus combo.
Hecarim is also there.
Oh yeah, of course. This was actually something that Mithy brought out very early on in the tournament, saying that there is a resurgence in the Hecarim again, because you can go for just rush the Trinity Force with Courage of the Colossus. Not only are you super tanky, but you have massive amounts of damage.
Yeah, it's fantastic. But there's the Nautilus lock-in once again. We saw Dara and Evi actually flex these two at the same time. I mean, they can switch all the way around if they'd like to, and there's the Hecarim locked away. Seros actually has it in his hands at the moment. The Clippity-Clop has been known to head down the mid lane, but with no home guards, probably not going to be in Tussle. He's going to be grabbing that one, leaving that counter pick for Seros.
Yeah, and whilst the continuation of the flex is there on the LJL side, you look at C's team composition, and they have a fair amount of pick between an Elise and a Jhin already there. Yeah. The Thresh hover, actually something I would like to see, simply because it is super strong now with the Courage of the Colossus Masteries, and the availability is there, but I wouldn't expect Celebrity to hover it when Ron can.
I'd quite like to see something like a Victor right now for Optimus, to be honest. You just need some kind of high wave clear mid laner that can hold his own. Buy time to get you to the mid game, where a lot of champions like the Jhin and the Poppy hit their spikes. And when you combine that with an Elise as well, you have high pressure early jungle, scaling well into the mid and late game with the Victor and the Jhin.
Well, that's precisely what they've done. Victor is going to be locked away as Ron OP is going to grab that Thresh, making Rusty happy. And now all of us are happy because Zillion's been locked in. Seros is on his signature champion. Japan looking like they've put together a team composition based on the champions that they like playing.
Oh, yeah.
I was happy for a very different reason, Atlas. It was not the Thresh. It was definitely the Zillion. Of course, his signature champion, historically his best champion in every single wildcard event that he goes to. And it seems to be timeless for this player. That he can still play the Zillion. Thank you for laughing.
That's fantastic.
No one else will.
Yeah. And when you look at the Zillion in the comp as well, it actually works very nicely with the Hecarim too, because it speeds him up incredibly quickly.
Oh, God, yeah.
It's setting up for those
more
engagements
damage
very
as well.
nicely, and it's more pure for the Ashe as well. You are putting a lot of pressure onto Hereti, and this is going to be the big question for him because a lot of debate has been coming out as to how well he's going to be able to perform during this tournament. He's made it this far. Now the pressure's being put on him. Can he perform?
Well, we'll see. Certainly very, very soon. I'm excited to see what they are going to be able to do now that the Zillion is on the Rift one more time, because he can be delivering that experience around. And how's that going to work with the new jungle here as well? Could that maybe change the landscape here for the Hecarim play?
Oh, you thought that the level 3 gank was bad. What if the jungler's level 4?
Exactly.
No, I think there's actually a lot you have to look at when we're talking about this. Maybe giving the Hecarim extra experience, even just going towards the top side of the map, working as a top 3-man unit and giving experience everywhere. They could be just destroying the jungle.
Well, things could certainly get ridiculous, and we want you to hop over to Twitter to let us know all about it. A tweet at LOL Esports, the hashtag SEA win if you think that Southeast Asia can do it, or the hashtag JPN win if you think that Japan can take them down after their victory earlier on in the day. Southeast Asia looked brilliant in the last Assassin Mode match that we saw, and we'll see whether they can carry it through here against Seros' signature Zillion as we hop onto Summoner's Rift for the final here at IWCA.
And remember, ladies and gentlemen, the winner of this will be joining Team Fire for the main All-Stars event along with North America and the other wildcard region. North America. I mean, Korea is not a wildcard region. That is, I definitely got those two confused.
I feel like you've been like working on that one for so long that, oh jeez.
Also, funnily enough, both being of Team Fire in this final.
Yeah, just Team
Makes
Fire
a lot of
everywhere.
sense.
Well, Tussle wandering around, looking magnificent. That particular skin.
So in terms of the early game for both these teams, I imagine that it will mainly be about farming. The bottom lane is quite an interesting matchup because you have Jhin Thresh, a matchup that we actually haven't seen for a very long time. With the introduction of Courage of the Colossus, there was discussion about whether or not we would see Thresh back in the meta. And when you know that the Nautilus is going out in either the top lane or support, you know it's either going to be Tahm Kench or Nautilus, and that makes it a little bit better to pick up that Thresh pick.
Yeah, Thresh also aiding quite heavily towards the picks from laning phase. Levy should actually have this propensity towards perhaps the bottom side where he can gank and have Ron either throw the lantern to him to go in, he can hit the cocoon, or the hook or flay can even connect on top of that. Couple that with Celebrity's W to lock down, and if one piece of crowd control hits, the rest does.
Well, there's actually just so much crowd control coming out of that bottom lane. Anyway, Seros going to help out with the leash. Throws a bomb on top of Tussle's head. Dara going to help just using the Titan's Wrath to tank up the blue guy for a little while. We'll see how the horse goes roaming around this jungle. Levy doing the same thing on the opposite side of the map. So none of this cheeky red buff into Krug's business, getting the level 3 extraordinarily early. We'll see what the junglers are going to do this time.
Yeah, it will mean that GPL's bottom lane will get the early push. Which is always the advantage when you have melee on melee matchup, because you have the pick potential, as we were just discussing with the Thresh. And getting that early level 2 is going to make that kill pressure so much greater. So good start for them. Meanwhile, in the mid lane.
Yeah, Optimus, I believe, yep, that evens out the trade quite nicely. Level 2 going to be gained by Optimus first. A little bit of extra control.
Smart ward from Ron, moving up into the river to make sure that that cheeky level 3 gank that we were just discussing didn't come out from Tussle. So they are well prepared. They can play as aggressively as they want now after just hitting that level 2.
I guess the cool thing is the awareness as well from Ron in terms of timing. When to put the ward down. So when they start on the red side, it's about 20 seconds quicker than that on the blue side, knowing that he has to do an extra camp. So very well timed in particular from Ron.
Well, Tussle now chucking down some wards of his own. Going to kill this horde of raptors. Try and get himself even further through this jungle route. We'll see whether he goes first as far as that gank is concerned.
So in terms of early pushing, it looks like that the majority of the GPL squad are actually having the advantage because Saras took a couple unfavorable trades early on, which forced him back underneath his turret. In the top lane, QTV just had slightly stronger wave clear, so he's also got himself the push. And this gives Levy quite a few options as to where he wants to go, but he needs to prioritize on vision because when you're extending that far in so many different lanes, it becomes harder for him to predict where the ganks will come.
Well, the pings did go down. Japan does know that Levy is waiting here, but
Hook's
going to land. Fantastic layering of CC as the exhaust there. Harry Eddy, oh my goodness, he's going to die. Took him a long time. First blood. As GPL just take down the first kill.
He does do well to stop Levy from getting an assist of any kind, recognizing that he was dead, making the best of a bad situation, but the timing of that gank was incredible from Levy, and the hook from Ron OP. You hit one, now he's warmed up, it could be more to follow.
Yeah. I mean, I'm honestly very surprised that Dara didn't even consider to drop a ward. When you're getting pushed underneath your turret, I would have even predicted that Elise may come for a dive. Her ability to dive. Hang on, Tussle popping the ghost.
Hecarim's here.
Evie looking pretty hungry here up towards the top side of the map. Decent heroic charge to create some distance there from the Tahm Kench, but Tussle does have the red buff. Rampage is going to be in there as well, but I think the Poppy's made it back to safety. No flash needed.
Yeah, it's actually really hard to gank a Poppy as Hecarim in any situation simply because the W's there, but we do get to see this kill on the bottom again.
So you can see already he walks up to try and get the last hit, and that was just such a smart hook from Ron OP. In all honesty, already you have to criticize him a little bit because if he wants to get that farm, he should have moved in behind the caster creeps, so he would have had at least a protection from that front line, but didn't end up doing it, gets picked off. As you rightly said, he doesn't give the assist over to the Elise, but goal still achieved.
Yeah, Saros just going to speed himself up to get himself away from the Elise, but some decent damage from Optimus will send him back home for the moment. A little bit of a lead here by Optimus in the mid lane on the Victor.
Now Celebrity is acting like a jungler. Because again, this is what it's all about. In that bottom lane, Ron hits a hook, they follow it up with everything else that they have. Ooh.
Yeah, not going to land the dredge line just yet. Large minion wave now for Celebrity to clean up underneath this turret. Dragon could be potentially looked at. It is going to be the Mountain Drake first up. Possible siege potential. That's a big crit. But we haven't had a look towards the top side of the map just yet. How does the old Tahm Kench, now that that passive is on his passive as opposed to his ultimate, help him fare in this top lane matchup against a tank?
I mean, have you ever seen the Maokai versus Poppy matchup?
I love that one.
Have you ever seen the Maokai versus Nautilus matchup?
Love that one too.
I would very much say that the Poppy versus Tahm Kench matchup is very similar, where they tend to slap each other in the face quite a lot.
You're telling me that there's two tanks right now that are hitting each other?
Thanks, Vedius.
Just wanted to, you know.
That's why you're here.
That's
the
why I'm
sweet
here,
breakdowns.
Hey man, ask and you shall receive.
That was a very good point. Levy is going to be discovered.
Wow, that is actually...
Bloom.
That was actually much longer than I thought it would. I actually thought that only went as far as the other plan, as you can see in the back end of the bottom jungle, but that actually goes all the way through the jungle, able to spot out Levy, so now they know he's in the bottom half. This is going to allow Evie to be more aggressive in the top lane.
Oh, so aggressive. Licking the Poppy over and over again. Now wards removed. Yeah, super aggressive.
I think the idea is like placing a ward like that is for the sake of the hook, but it has the double entendre of being able to spot Tussle if he tries to lane gank, and Hecarim is quite good at that with the Nautilus on his team.
Just canters his way in.
Ooh, gank the
voyage. Yeah, Evie really wants to try and lock down Optimus, but the cleanse comes in. He's able to create some distance. Chaos Storm doing some work as Cocoon lands onto the Catfish, but wanders casually away. It's pretty strong right now. Stara's Riptide's not going to find Celebrity. No more to come out of that one.
Yeah, and the availability to roam from the top side of the map, Evie, once again acknowledging where the Elise would be. He was at the right place at the right time once again.
So Levy actually doing a good job of stealing away the camps. They have pressure on the bot side of the map to move aggressively up. Dara's going to do what he can, but given that Tussle has already been forced back, there's not much that they're going to be able to do with this. And denying that away from Saras will help Optimus just in the mid lane in terms of being able to get the push up, but because of how much mana Saras has, it's not going to hurt him too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, in saying that as well, though, the item build that Optimus has gone for is very inefficient for a Victor in terms of upgrading his Hex Core.
Yes.
So the wave clear that Saros has, even without the blue buff, will be superior to that of Optimus until he actually upgrades it. And it means that he can get pushed under the turret if Saros chooses to do so.
Yeah, that is the worst feeling, isn't it, when you can't get that first upgrade on the first back. All right, Levy. He's going to start off this blue buff. Optimus is at least going to get that. We're going to be feeling a little bit better as the Hawk Shot's going to spy out exactly what's going on. So more information now for Japan as the backs are coming in from Southeast Asia on the bottom side of the map. Could be an opportunity to make some form of play, but Evie also going to do the same thing.
So as we discussed during Champions Select, it is likely to be a slow early game as we're seeing now. We did see that early kill in the bottom, but that was largely due to a bit of a misplay coming out from Heretti, but also good pathing from Levy. What that's resulting in is a big CS differential between the two AD carries. And we talked about how Heretti now a lot of focus is going to be put onto him because when you have a Zillion as a mid laner, he's not really being that reliable damage dealer. So you're looking at Tussle to be a big damage dealer and Heretti. And with Heretti being at this big of a deficit, it does make you wonder how long it's going to take for Japan to really reach that point where they can start dealing the damage.
Yeah, and there's a couple of things about this as well that accentuates it further. Evie and Hustle working together to control the top side of the map, namely with all the vision and control they're starting to place. I think the bottom side is actually where C is doing a lot more work. So the GPL team has all of their control wards and vision, so they're trying to accelerate Celebrity and Ron OP. And this is that point in the game where something's got to give. And is it going to be LJL adjusting to all the pressure that they're placing? Or is it actually just matching on the opposite side of the map and saying Evie can kill them, it's fine, it's a Jhin?
It's exactly that. I mean, you can even see it on the minimap right now because they have pressure in the bottom lane. Levy is then helping out the mid to make sure they have control over the bottom half of the map. Is Evie now going aggressive?
Hey guys, there's a sick 1v1 going on right here as the heroic charge is used by QTV to get himself out, but doesn't have the stun. Evie just munching on him. Flash is not going to be used by the Tahm Kench, but the ultimate's there from Tussle. Can he do the dive? I don't think so.
There's no Elise there.
Oh no, decided to look for it now as Abyssal Voyage is going to get the Tahm Kench in, but QTV locks down that kill, doesn't get the stun, and Evie's just going to eat the grey health and wander out. But that's a 1-for-1. You'll take that as the Poppy.
So Evie actually tried to come in and provide support for his jungler. He even flashed to get the Kasum, but it was just a little bit too late. Tussle, note that he actually hesitated a little bit on the dive because he wanted to build up his charge to get the maximum amount of damage out as he possibly could. But because he bought that time, it bought time for QTV's cooldowns as well. So the fact that QTV was able to buy time and draw two members up to the top half of the map is now going to enable GPL to get this first Mountain Drake.
Yeah, and it is going to be spotted by the Hawkshot. However, not a whole lot they can do about it, especially with Levy able to smite that one away quite easily. Doesn't. He's going to be taken by the Jhin. Yeah, they're just eating each other. Poppy just going to channel the ultimate because he's sick of it. Just sick of this business. Look at him.
Well, it is a red buff Tahm Kench with about 17 minions.
That red buff is actually doing a huge amount of work. And one thing that people have to remember about the Tahm Kench is that it's actually better to keep that stack on for as long as you can. So the reason for it is because you do more damage the more stacks that are on the target. The consume early makes a lot of sense because it removed the ability for Poppy to disengage with the ultimate. He then gets the 3 stacks, so he gets stunned up, buys enough time for Tussle to come, and this is where the indecision comes, because Evie could flash over the wall, backs away, and then Tussle decides to ult. So there's now split decision. Tussle feels that there's enough damage for him to go for the dive. He buys time with the heroic charge, but then QTV is able to get that bit of shield back, and then he just is able to get the outplay. So really good stuff from QTV to be able to get a 1-for-1, at least in that exchange.
Yeah, Dangerous Game also playing a big part there. If he had got the stun afterwards with the heroic charge against the tower, could have almost made that a 2-for-0. But thankfully for Japan, they were able to come out with at least a kill. And onto their Tahm Kench as well, who they want to get as tanky and huge and unkillable as possible.
Absolutely, you'd expect something along the lines of the Sunfire Cape soon for Evie, and then there's nothing QTV can even imagine doing to him. The streak does go both ways, but it also means that the Jhin, who has gone for a Ghostblade first, will be using that to run away, you would expect.
Yeah, how do you feel about the Ghostblade now that it is the lethality, doesn't have the attack speed on the active anymore as well for a Jhin? We have seen a lot more of the Essence Reavers recently.
Well, we might not have time for that as Tussle comes in the bot.
Yeah, good dodge with the Lantern there as Celebrity gets himself out, but the fear is still there from Tussle. Box comes in, Ron OP just trying to sacrifice himself as Evie really wants to kill the Jhin, doesn't care about this tower at all, but Ron, he's still alive. They're going for this dive, but I don't know whether it's going to work. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, Seros just gets obliterated, doesn't even ult himself, decides that, you know, the Death Chamber's where he wants to be.
I mean, the dive works well enough on the bottom side of the map for the moment, as Celebrity's just saying hello.
Yep,
might try and
catfish in a barrel down here at the moment, but they're just going to ignore it. As Evie knows exactly what he wants, and that's the tower.
Yeah. But look at the rest of the map. 4 members. Evie now.
Yeah, what is this? They have taken down the tower. Good repel gets the Elise up into the sky, but Evie, he's going to fall down. It's a double kill immediately there for Levy. His Celebrity is in trouble. Tussle, oh my God, so close. Shutdown comes in as the Spider eventually falls, and I think that was a 1 trade by Southeast Asia, and they get a tower.
This could not have been a better trade for the GPL. Not only do they get the tower in the top lane, they've gotten so much damage down onto the tier 1 in the mid lane. They get themselves, I believe, 3, maybe even 4 kills in the bottom lane. Just everything went so well, and it was because Japan invested so many resources and got such little gain out of it.
And he didn't activate his Ghost Blade.
Inefficient.
That's the most important part.
So inefficient.
Let's watch the replay of the unused Ghost Blade in the bottom lane.
So firstly, it was a good lantern to get out of the Ash Arrow. Evie decides that Celebrity's not going to ult, which is why this happens. Seros, remember, doesn't use his ultimate. He just dies. I believe the duration of the stun was sufficient for that with Thunderlord.
A lot of damage.
And this has worked out good for them on the bottom side of the map. But they don't have enough minions collectively to actually take the turret out in time for Levy to actually get in early, as he has a red buff.
It certainly does. There's another Abyssal Voyage as the arrow flies through. Optimus has to cleanse immediately. Good tongue lash there as the hook lands onto the Tahm Kench, but he just doesn't care. To be perfectly frank with you, not even with his Sunfire cape built up just yet. He's just that tanky. Behind in farm just a bit. A Celebrity's trying to take down this red buff, and this action has abated for the moment.
And I feel like the big thing we really need to talk about here is just the jungle difference between Levy and Tussle right now, because when you look at the bans that came out early on, the Rek'Sai, the Olaf, and the Lee Sin, those are very well known for being Tussle's junglers. And now that he's being forced on to Hecarim as Ron gets hooked up.
Yeah, it's a hook battle right here as the box goes down as well. Dara's going to be the first one to fall, but does have the ultimate from Seros, so survives for the moment. Depth charge comes in as Dara's doing the very best that he can to continue being alive. Bombs come down, but Levy's just going to eat that one up. He just doesn't care. The wall bangs in, and Seros is going to fall down. Southeast Asia just playing out of their minds this game.
Yeah, they're definitely starting to pop off here from the Southeast Asian side. Heredi does not do enough in that fight. He sits back and only throws out his W. Maybe could have went the cooldown reduction build if he decided that was the route he was going to go. However, C starting to accelerate more and more.
Yeah, there's the Dark Passage to be taken by Levy. Oh, not going to land the Cocoon. There's a whole lot of buttons being used, but one flash is all that is needed from Evie.
But it doesn't matter because they're getting objectives on the map, and this is what matters for GPL. Remember when we saw Japan play earlier on in the day? They didn't get their first tower until 40 minutes into the game. Objective control does not seem to be their forte, and when trying to play around this blue buff, just look at the setup. You've got an Ashe underneath the turret. You've got Evie up near his mid lane turret, and they're starting a fight. Tussle diving onto Celebrity without any form of support whatsoever, and Dara's just being left to the masses. The actual setup coming out from Japan just wasn't there, and it was a guaranteed loss before they'd even started.
And remember, the biggest member of the LGL side was completely zoned by the Victor gravity field, so there was no way in for him in that fight either. 0 damage. Sums it up.
Yeah, we were talking about Levy popping off, and he's done it again. Doesn't need the Kazakhs to do a heck of a lot of damage. He's going to do over 2k on the Elise at about 15 minutes into the game, which is not bad at all.
And this is why we have to backtrack to pick and bans, because you have to wonder why Japan didn't put more priority on the Elise. I feel like that we were struggling to think of what junglers Tussle could go on to, and I imagine Japan was doing the same thing because they saw the Elise come out and they go, okay, let's just go. Oh no, we can't go that because that's banned. Oh, that's also banned. And now we kind of have no junglers left that are good in terms of early game pressure, and that is exactly what Tussle is known for. And in terms of the difference now, Levy is the one having all this impact, and especially in these team fights.
Yeah, when we look at Tussle's impact in the team fights in particular, he's doing a lot of damage and pushing away Celebrity, stopping the ultimates and things like that, but there's not much else.
Yeah, Abyssal Voyage comes in as Evie is going to trap Optimus. Rocking a hard place is an understatement here, but a fantastic gravity field and flashes to get out of the way of the onslaught of shadows. QTV just bonks him with a hammer, gets him the heck back to dodge. And that's a second Mountain Drake now for the GPL at the same time. They are doing everything on this map.
Objective control is the name of the game for GPL. That is another dragon given away just because Japan decided to invest all of their resources into trying to get a kill on the top half of the map. They don't get the kill, they lose the dragon, and now GPL just continue to extend their already dominant game.
Well, you were talking about the scaling, Rusty, as Seros, he's in a heck of a lot of trouble. Does have the flash, gets himself out, lots of movement speed, so he's going to be okay. But no, Rusty, you were talking about scaling, and is this too bad at the moment for Japan? I mean, 5,000 gold isn't that much, and they do have things like the Hecarim that can get very, very big.
I mean, we have to highlight team composition again, so we bring it back to the scaling and how it's going to pan out. They have a lot of wave clear on the side of the LGL with a Zillion. The Ashe is able to control and prevent dives with the arrow being there. Nautilus and Tahm Kench make diving nigh on impossible as well to follow through with, and so they have to have some kind of team composition on the GPL side to counteract that. The objective control firstly is there, so 2 Mountain Drakes settles it. Seros is in trouble as well.
Yep, Dark Passage is going to be taken there by Optimus as he just bonks himself into the box wall. And it is going to be a bad news story as the Perfect Hexcore is going to be able to lock him down. The rest of Japan have made it here, but they are too late. Curtain call comes down. Celebrity, a lot of protection as Dara is going to take the first bullet. Titan's Wrath helps him tank up the rest. It should be okay, but it's now 5 versus 4.
You have to question the decision-making from Saros right there. Moving towards the Rift Hell, trying to gain vision without any support from your team. You didn't even use the bombs to check the brush. You end up getting punished, and now GPL are looking to take this tower.
Well, there's the Poppycopter as the wallbang comes in. Evie needs to eat the grey health. He is going to survive for the moment as Dara, so many shields. QTB, he's in trouble. He's just going to get eaten by the Target. Massive damage comes through, and Southeast Asia are going to grab 2.
Easy pickup.
Not done. Oh, Tussle, that was ambitious as he is going to get shot in the back of the head by the Jin. Ron, he's still all right. Oh, takes the bomb to his teammates as he falls down. And Levy's going to take a red buff in celebration.
So that ends up being a 3 for 2 in favor of Southeast Asia as now they're moving in towards this tier 2 turret. Celebrity, he wants blood.
Yeah, the crit's going to be used to take down the turret instead as Saros does have a heck of a lot of movement speed. And now Optimus needs to head back home. Oh, teleport out from Evie. Wants to find the Victor. We'll see whether he can make his way in time. Good gravity field once again, but there's a flash tongue lash. And Saros now has found Celebrity as well. A lot of damage, but this time she's untouchable. And just takes him down. Nicely played by Evie.
Currently 5-2-1. The Tom Kench has just taken out 2 people. I would imagine it's too early to Baron at 20 minutes on the dot, but they are pinging it and they're considering it as an option.
We'll see what they can do, as the Ashe not doing a heck of a lot of damage here against QTV, as the rest of his team is going to turn up. Another Abyssal Voyage. Oh my goodness, Evie, you are an ambitious fellow, as he eats the grey health one more time. So
they're doing it.
Yeah, there are some red markers here as the hook is going to land onto a minion, unfortunately, and Evie's going to eat up the Poppy. QTV's in a heck of a lot of trouble, as these auto attacks from the Ashe are not doing anything. Heretti just doesn't have the damage that he wants. As there's the disengage, the 2 tanks are going to get bonked out of there.
Evie is playing like a beast right now. Going for the flank, getting the 2 kills down onto Optimus and Celebrity, and then re-engaging onto Levy. Bear in mind, Levy has just gone for full aggressive build, and he is getting punished for it. It worked out nicely for him here. They were able to chunk out Dara. Look at the positioning of Heretti as well. He's just going to get bopped by the Victor. Oh, that was so much damage. Doesn't realize that the second proc of the laser hadn't come out yet. Poor mispositioning from him. Tussle with that. That was a random re-engage. I have no idea why he was going for that.
He was trying to actually save Saros, who he thought was going to get stunned, but he's actually just sped himself up and got out. So
an oopsie daisy. But then you get this TP from Evie, and this is where they start to turn things around in their favor. Good flash to get that first kill. Saros was in a bit of danger, but he had his ultimate ready, so there was no real threat for him. And then this is just where the re-engage comes out from Evie. In all honesty, I thought his ultimate was up again, but no, he had used the TP earlier, uses the Abyssal Voyage, and just look at how quickly Levy drops. He had a great start to the game, but now he's gotten a bit greedy with his build, and he ends up getting punished for it.
Yeah, and again, Evie's actually just too tanky. They thought that they could re-engage. You can see the shot calling from Vietnam in this situation, and that was to fight, to turn it around and to push the Tom Kench under the turret. Doesn't take enough damage, ends up working out for them once again.
Yeah, it was a fantastic hook coming out of Dara as well. That dredge line doing a whole lot of work, locking down the Spider Lady. Just couldn't hop up into the web using the repel. But Ron and Pete now just going to get some vision around this Baron. 12-9, so Southeast Asia still ahead. 5,000 gold is still the lead that they hold over Japan.
And in terms of team fighting, GPL are consistently coming out ahead. When you have the Victor, who's now completed his Rylai's Crypto Scepter, along with the Hex Core Mark III, he's just doing an unbelievable amount of damage. Combine that with Celebrity, who's completed 2.5 items. It's just going to be so difficult for the LGL, who are yet to complete their Infinity Edge on the Ashe.
I will say, however, the GPL side is severely missing cooldown reduction in their itemization choices. Their damage is crazy, but they're not going to be able to do it all over and over. Mostly Levy is going to be the one trying to do that, and only he has the Abyssal Scepter for cooldown reduction.
But do they really need it when the only threat they have to bear in mind is Heretti? Because when you look at the damage that's coming out from that team, he hasn't even completed his second item. But hang on, we don't have time for that because the Baron's pretty much dead.
Yeah, just a casual Baron. It's getting Chaos Stormed as Levy's going to be able to smite that one down. All too easy here at 23 minutes. And I was like, GPL just said, well, we may as well take it.
They were just like, hey, how's it going, Baron? We're just gonna, we're gonna take you and we're gonna leave. And Japan were just like, hey guys, do you think the Baron's going on? Like, they were posturing around it. Like, you can see they set up vision moving towards the top half of that jungle, but they didn't actually drop any vision over the wall. And
yeah,
just, honestly, just a bit of an oversight from Japan, and this is going to increase the goal deficit even further.
It's the mistake that you make as well. It's a 50-50. Are they baiting? Are they just going to hook me? Remember, it's
got a hawk shot.
But it's a pick team composition also. Yeah. So if you face check by placing vision, you will still die.
Yeah.
And so they just took the guess. They said, you know what? They're baiting. They've got a pick comp. It'll be fine. Obviously not. But they said that.
Well, that is going to mean Baron on the side of the GPL, looking to now push in the bottom lane. And see Japan are ready, as they're going to stop the backs of Evie, who's just trying to start it up one more time.
And one of the most devastating team comps to have a Baron is a pick composition, because not only do you have to try and clear away all these minion waves, but you have to just close that gap a little bit more, and you're leaving yourself susceptible to that blind hook, to that random cocoon that could just come flying out of nowhere. You follow that up with the gravity field, and you're just instantly going to get popped. It's such a tricky comp to play around when they are sieging with such a powerful minion force.
And a few cheeky pot shots there as the buckler was pegged at that turret, but at least the wave clear's okay here by Japan. 25 minutes in, not necessarily going to be able to face tank these turrets just yet with the items that they do have. This Baron buff is really helping out. They have at least got half the health bar. Optimus is moving up towards the top side, so may not necessarily have the man advantage that they were experiencing before, as the dredge line's not going to find it. QTV is locked out. Whoa. Celebrity's in trouble, as there's a massive flank, just spits him out onto the ground. Rono P now in trouble as Tussle able to get the chase. Levy with the cocoon nicely lands it onto the horse, but there's the onslaught of shadows. The Thresh is in a heck of a lot of trouble, just gets bonked back into the enemy team. Oh, he's out. Flash as Dara gets the ward over, but you're not going to kill him with that. There's now QTV. I don't know how he got over there, but he did. And Heredi and Seros not going to be able to take down the big tank.
And eventually the front line became the back line at this stage. The Tahm Kench ultimate to bring Tussle in, and they work it out incredibly well, but they're still going for turrets here, C, and more. This is a big problem, as the Chaos Storm's going to do a heck of a lot of work there to Seros. Heredi has to flash. He can't kite this one out, though. That's a massive double kill there for Optimus, as Evie eventually makes his way in. He's just waddling after the victor as best he can. The tongue lash comes in, but I just don't think he's going to be able to do it. Empowered recall in the brush for the BM. I like it. There just wasn't a whole lot the Tahm Kench could do. Optimus just swagging his way through that. An abysmal team fight for Southeast Asia that Optimus is able to single-handedly turn around. He kills both Seros and Heredi, gets them a tier 2 turret in the top lane, and then is able to just go back by himself. Really good stuff from him, but this is where it all started. Yeah, so we get to see the Tahm Kench work his magic. All we heard was a random sound of a tongue swirling. We didn't know where he was going. However, the arrow comes out, I believe, at around the exact same time, and straight on a Celebrity. The last time we've seen these fights actually break out, there wasn't enough damage to kill him, but when Evie is with the Hecarim, evidently will be. However, the Vietnamese team make their decision pretty much immediately to work it on the opposite side. It was also good awareness to force a fight then and there, because the victor wasn't anywhere near them, but we don't have time for that. Yeah, everyone's turning up to the mid lane here now, as Tussle's going to get caught in the gravity field along with Evie. Good ultimate is going to knock the horse away, but he should be able to make his way back in. Arrow, I think, hit someone, but I'm not entirely sure, as we have a look on the bottom side of the map. Optimus now throws down the gravity field. Good timing on that one, as Evie unable to close the gap. But look at this, GPL just running them around. Southeast Asia is just playing the map so well, constantly baiting Japan into these fights and then just immediately disengaging, slowly working their way down these tier 3 turrets all across the map and using this Baron to its fullest potential. It has now ran out. They've picked themselves up a Zarot portal to just add insult to injury. There goes the first turret, here comes the second. And remember, 2 Mountain Drakes and a Cloud Drake able to work towards their win conditions almost perfectly here. Yeah, the rotations and the sieges definitely able. Oh, Dara, he's just going to get taken down here as Ron OP is going to grab the kill credit. The box is there as well as Ron. He's in a heck of a lot of trouble, uses the redemption and is actually going to survive. Even the bomb as Tussle. Down to about half health now. Heredi's already dead, but he just wasn't offering all that much to these fights. But look at the health bars. The GPL, oh, they are able to do it, and they clean sweep as Seros is trying to run. Oh, good flash. Gets himself to safety, and Deathfire touch is not enough. Seros, the last man standing. And you'd wager this is definitely enough here for game 1 going to the GPL side in this best of 3, Atlas.
Fantastic work as Seros is just going to get launched on. Does have the ultimate up one more time. These health bars are not high as Dara is going to respawn. The Nexus turrets are falling down pretty quickly. One last bullet from Celebrity is going to do it. An open Nexus now as Dara is on the fountain. The Summoners Rift Game looking to go to Southeast Asia. Can Japan save the Nexus? No, they can't. Celebrity's got the last bullet, and that is going to be the first win for Southeast Asia.
We criticized Japan's Summoners Rift performance earlier on the day, and we see it here once again. Their ability to control the map, their early game understanding of honestly just tracking Levy just wasn't there, and they got punished for it. Southeast Asia played a clean Summoners Rift game, and even though there was a few messy fights in the mid game, they were just so easily able to reclaim control.
Yeah. And
honestly, like 28.5 minutes, I believe that was our fastest Summoners Rift game of the day. Honestly, surprisingly, I was not expecting such a clean victory from the Vietnam squad.
Systematic destruction by Southeast Asia, and you have to expect it. I mean, the momentum that they would have built after their most recent victory against Turkey, a 2-0 against what was looking like the strongest team here at this tournament, definitely going to put a bit of spring into your step, and certainly worked out for them that game.
And that's the thing you have to look at as well. The confidence play out of Levy early game, when he was playing against the LGL side with that gank, the fact it was successful actually starts that snowball in the right direction. They had momentum, but they accelerated that momentum even harder by having a successful moment.
And we saw how much pressure was being put onto Hereti. This was the moment where he needed to shine, and after having a bad level 2 experience, to then have it transition into bad positioning, getting focused over, and just constantly being caught out. Like, you can't, I feel like you can't afford to put that much pressure on the poor man.
Yeah, it was just a bit of a problem. Hereti did not have a great time, but Vietnam has taken game 1. So let's head to the analyst desk to break down how it happened.
Thank you very much, Atlas. Now, you're absolutely right. Unfortunately, Hereti getting the short end of the stick in that game, and it all started in a single play on the bottom side of the map. One Elise gank seemed to be all it took to shut this man down in the early game.
Yeah, really rough. Oh my god.
Yeah, knees weak, palms Hereti.
Well, I mean, this is such a detrimental point in this game that Hereti ends up getting taken down massive last hit. And, you know, the consequence of this is that we get a little later in the game. He was so far behind, 45 CS down at like 15 minutes. There was a point where I look at it and it's like 70 CS to 35 in the laning phase. Really tough.
And they're playing an outlaw support, which once you get outscaled and once you get snowballed on, you're just going to chain feed and chain feed and chain feed. And I've been there.
The personal experience coming from Mythy. Well, bot lane looked really rough for the LJL. Top lane was actually a huge boon for them. Once again, Evie gets his hand on this Tahm Kench, and we were kind of stunned to see him get it. But before we get into that, let's take a look at this bot lane fight. I mean, these are some of the moments where I feel like Southeast Asia outplayed a little bit, but also Japan wasn't quite on the same page.
Hang on.
They got so much here. They put in so many members into this play, and Southeast Asia is just pushing all the other sides and just getting a kill mid on top of that, and just the resources game falls completely into Southeast Asia's favor, and just. Yeah, after this, the game was really, really hard.
They're trying to push with like 3 minions in this wave completely. So as they step up, there's like Celebrity and Levy here, and they get the turret eventually. The worst, so low.
They get a 2-for-2 here. It was.
I mean, it's just absolutely brutal, right? We see the Jhin, force shot, death fire touch, and a trap. Nice little extra bit of ticket damage. But as I was saying earlier, Levy, after those few early plays, the one good thing for Japan was that they were able to start using him so aggressively that Tahm Kench was nigh unkillable. And we saw it. He was fearlessly diving time and time again.
Yeah, even from that last trade, he was just kind of picking up kills over and over again. And I remember we were sitting watching this game. It was like, look at the poppy damage. But then Tahm Kench goes in by himself. And the rest of the team's like, oh, I guess we can fight. Tahm Kench is just soloing them. And he just tanks all of this damage. It was completely absurd. And it was just like, oh, he's not damaging them, and they're all like red stacked, and he's just like eating everyone, stunning everyone left and right, and this eventually turns in the Japanese favor just because of Evie.
The best thing about this is that everyone was safe, and all they had to do is back away, but they see Tahm Kench just jumping into 5 people. They're like, oh my god, just go on, kill him, we can kill him, and then they just all get baited.
That's a hard lesson to learn, but luckily for them, it is Assassin's mode coming up next. So there's no more Tahm Kench to worry about, at least in that, maybe in 1v1s later today, and blue side has been chosen by Southeast Asia, so they will stay on blue side for match 2.
I mean, this is like going to a plan, right? Because this is what me and Stress predicted, is that there will be the last player, of course, in Summoner's Rift, and then from here on out, it's just clear blue skies.
He knows what's up.
Clear blue skies for Japan. All right, I'm not quite so confident, but I guess we're going to get to find out. We're going to go to a quick break for now. South Asia is up with 1 game in the lead. See if Japan can bring it back in assassin mode or if they'll close it out with the 2-0.
But Evie, he's going to fall down. It's a double kill immediately there for Levy. His Celebrity is in trouble. Tuttle, oh my god. We'll see whether he can make his way in time. Good gravity field once again, but there's a flash tongue lash. And Seros now has found Celebrity as well. A lot of damage, but this time she's untouchable. Looking to go to Southeast Asia. Can Japan save the Nexus? No, they can't. Celebrity's got the last bullet.